Hi, everybody. How are you? This is Lee at Fresh Astrology, and I'm going to make this weekly public. I normally do these for the membership lounge, but we're kind of at a pivotal point in the year. We're about halfway through, a little over halfway through. And so what I do with the weekly forecast is I'm looking at, today, the 28th of June, and out 7 days until the 5th of July. And let's take a look at what's going on throughout the week. And I also want to let you know that within the membership lounge, I will be looking at the 2021 forecasts. Oh, hi from Scotland. Oh, it's so great to see you here. What time is it in Scotland? Go to bed. You can stay here and listen, but isn't it late? Anyway, we'll be doing 2021 forecasting in the membership lounge, and I'm going to take a look at the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December and start to do a little more looking at the larger conjunctions throughout the year and just special forecasting on those, just so you know. And after I'm done with this, I'll post a link to the membership lounge. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're healthy. I hope your families are healthy. Or if anyone's sick, you're not in bed yet. Okay, we'll work on that. If anybody is sick, if you are unwell, just hang in there. I think my daughter and I had this in January. In fact, well, she actually had it before the end of the year because she was traveling through Asia. Or we don't know. Oh, hi from Alabama. It's so great to see you here. So we've got Alabama and Scotland together here. I'm in North Carolina. So I don't know, that's not exactly in between, but anyway, kind of in between the two of you. So let's take a look here. Currently today we have, let me see, we have kind of a kite formation going on, which means there could be some things in your life right at the moment that feel like they're going a little bit easier for you. It depends on where these things are hitting your chart, but I'll tell you that in a universal sense, this means for kind of the collective that we're re-energized. So in addition to having this kite formation where the energy just can seem to, Scrappy-Doo is an Aquarius. Yeah, so your whole life should be improving, even with the weirdness going on. The overall quality of the life of the Aquarius should be getting better. You may feel like it wobbles back and forth, like there's not a linear line of every day I'm better and better and better and nothing's ever bad, but there could be a little bit of a wobble through the year. But by the time we do get to December, you should be feeling that your life is taking on a new kind of shape and dimension. And there's this feeling overall for the Aquarius, just since you mentioned Aquarius, and I kind of feel bad for Aquarius. Aquarius people have had a tough go of it. Oh, hey, from Australia. Hi there. It's good to see you. What time is it in Australia? Let's just connect on that because I know I could look it up, but what time is it there where you are? What are we talking about? I'm wondering about everybody's sleep habits. Is everybody getting enough sleep? Because that's one thing we all need to be doing is getting, 7 a.m. Good. Okay. And Liz from San Francisco. Hey, Liz, good to see you. And so Liz, what is it? Like 1:55? So Scrappy-Doo, the Aquarius feels bad for Aquarius too. Haha. So, but Aquarius should be feeling a need to kind of reinvent. It's like building a new foundation, and all of us, for that matter. For Aquarius, is very personal. It's very personal. It's based on their emotional, mental life and how they've been feeling over the past few years. But for all of us, we're really building a new foundation. And can't you just see that writ large in the world? It's here. You see it very, if we ever wondered, like, what does that mean? We have these clear examples, put up in the world around us of how we need to build a new foundation. This is happening in a major way in the United States. Let's just set aside, that small thing called the pandemic. we have this amazing need for change and to build a brand new foundation. So change doesn't mean tweaking the past, tweaking the systems that don't work. Change means massive rebuild, which means you pour a new foundation. You know, you cement in the old, totally cover it up, get rid of it, build a new foundation. And so you can see it largely around us. We have the advantage in many ways of seeing culturally and globally what that looks like. And that should help each one of us go into our own lives and see where we need. It should become easier. Whenever we have metaphorical, allegorical examples in life, this is why like the text, like religious texts, use that method of learning. Whenever we see an example of like, oh, this other person's life over there isn't working, or this system outside of me isn't working, and here how I can see how it's not working. It's a lot easier for our brains to start to connect and see where we are doing something that isn't working. Like it helps us learn about ourselves, and in that way, when we do that, it enables us to go forward, knowing something about ourselves that we hadn't been able to see before, and it helps us do the new thing that would help us grow. So we're I look tanned and beautiful. Well, thank you. I probably am getting some sun. So when we can see the problems externally, again, it's helpful to us as individuals, not just in fixing the external problems, but we use those almost like an allegory or a parable about us. We begin to see new things about us in our lives that we hadn't seen before. So we're all being given a strange gift. It's the classical fairy tale of the three fairies who come in and give the gift, and they're all beautiful gifts. And then there's the evil fairy who comes in and gives a supposedly bad gift, which does in fact seem bad. But then, at the end of the fairy tale, the ending is such that a lot of good things happen as a result of the bad gift. The bad gift has to be overcome. So there's some bad looking gifts, poorly wrapped gifts, or just on the surface bad gifts in each one of our lives. And what are we going to do? And by gift, I don't mean somebody did something to each one of us. I mean, the bad gift is really symbolic for the situations in your life that you really want to fix, that you'd like to kind of go from here to there. Like a lot of people want to go from, like say here you have X amount of dollars in the bank and you want to go to there where there's a different value in your bank. Or you go from here, this current relationship status, to there, to this other relationship status. Whatever it is you'd like to change and move forward on, that's what we're talking about. You could very well be able to see things you couldn't have seen before all this stuff started happening to change the world this year. So, and now with Mars newly in Aries, at 0 point Aries, a very powerful degree, by the way, we have this new energy to completely change and throw our effort behind stuff we feel we need to do. So I would expect many of you feel re-energized, invigorated, or reinvigorated. And we also have, again, like I started this forecast by talking about the kite formation. A lot of the planets are working very well together to create this. And it means that it's easier now than at other times to get things done. So be thinking about, as we lead up to the full moon at the end of this week. So on July 5th, we have a full moon, again, another lunar eclipse. Be thinking about changes you want to make. So today is better than last week. Yes, good. I hope so. So be thinking over this week what you want to put your energy into. Be thinking about what you've been able to see about yourself and your own situation and ways to move forward that you hadn't been able to see before. This is where Mars would ideally like you to focus your energy. For many people, it's about how you move forward in your career and what you stand for. It's also your image. And by image, I don't mean like, I don't know, it's surfacey, but it's also kind of how you present in the world as you represent what you believe in. Are you walking your talk? And if you, or do you want a new talk to walk, Some of us may have shifted our values. I know that for a lot of white people in the United States, a lot of us are we're realizing that the talk we were walking before wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough for oppressed populations, for the Black population. And we have to not only walk our talk, but we have to talk a different talk and walk a new talk. And so, but this, the United States is not the only place this is happening. And it's not just about race issues, although that's a large part of the external. But there are other things in your world where the kite formation is hitting your particular chart. Just take a look at your chart, and you know what I'm talking about. If you look at your chart and look where the little points are, where the lines come together and point at a particular house or planet or the moon or the sun, you look at the numerical value of that house and figure out the symbolic meaning of that house. So for some of you, the effort is going to go into relationships. For some of you, the effort's going into your own physical body. For some of you, the effort's going into your making money. For some of you, the effort's going into reestablishing and putting a lot of time and thought into what your values actually are, doing a lot of work on that, reading, talking to people. Amy says, yesterday and today were tough for me. I'm sorry, Amy. Let's see. Somebody just says Scrappy Dude, which is a funny name. I've just qualified at college as a support. Never studied in my life, but I achieved this. Yes. High five. So Amy, I'm sorry that yesterday and today are tough, but I like how you phrased it. I like how you're not saying life sucks overall. You're saying yesterday and today were tough. And as a coach, I like that because there's this explicit recognition that you have that tomorrow could be better, or just these days were like kind of sucked for some reason, and we're all going to have days like that, even in good times. Even as life morphs and we grow, we're going to have days that suck. Absolutely. And I'm sorry that yours happened to recently and now. Hopefully just being here with us can be a little bit of a bright spot, just to be in community. Amy, what's your sign? Tell everybody what your sign is. Okay, so coming up this week, let's just go through all the stuff happening this week. It's kind of a big week. So we had Mars entering Aries yesterday. So that's the energy I'm talking about. We've got a quarter moon today in Libra early. So if you have something in 6 degrees Libra or anywhere in Libra, actually, or in the early degrees of any sign, that area of your chart's going to be where you feel that quarter moon energy. We have Jupiter conjunct Pluto, a bigger kind of thing, happening on Tuesday. And just as a reminder, if you didn't know, that's happening in the end degrees of Capricorn, kind of in the final 10 degrees. Specifically at Capricorn 24 in 7 minutes. Then we have July 1, Saturn retrograde enters Capricorn. So it had moved into Aquarius and is going back into Capricorn, which, we have these wobbles when things go retrograde. It's like they're wanting to knit together the meaning of those two areas of your chart or the two signs. So it's almost like when you go from Aquarius where it's forward motion and it wobbles back, even though Mars has the energy of wanting to work on things, presumably for the future, because you can't really fix the past. Saturn going back into Capricorn is like new game plan, which does fit with that building a new foundation. So Saturn going backward into Capricorn is new game plan. What's the new game plan? We've learned a lot over the past few months, right? And Amy says, yes, tomorrow will be better. I'm Scorpio. Okay, good. And born 11/11. Cool. All right. So that gives you a lot of strength, Amy. Just that those numerical values give you a sort of power to overcome things, but it also means your life presents you with stuff to overcome. I mean, all of us get that, but there's the reason for this is not just to torture us or you. It's more like there's something you can teach other people how to do when you overcome whatever it is you're overcoming. So, so we talked about Saturn going back into Capricorn. July 5th is the lunar eclipse, and that's happening at 13 degrees Capricorn. And let me look at that for a sec. Right. So when the moon is at 13 degrees Capricorn, that means the sun is at the same degree in Cancer. And so there's this idea of private versus public, home versus work, family versus work family, the past versus the future. So this all kind of blends together. And the way you make sense of it, like you can analyze a chart until the day you die, just this one day I'm looking at, of the lunar eclipse. You could probably keep analyzing and nitpicking this one day of this one full moon until the day you die, even if you're really young, because that's the kind of rabbit hole and wormhole you can go down with astrology. But the way you get centered again from that, because like that may be fun. It's like this great puzzle that you can put together forever and ever and ever and ever, like the twins in The Shining. The way you pull yourself back is you want to go into your own body. And because my belief, and I don't know how it happens, I have no idea, but it's as though the energy from the planets is flowing through us at all times, and we become that energy somehow on a cellular level. That is not scientific, but it's just as though that happens. Again, we look at allegory and parable and metaphor. It's as though you become these energies and they're inside you. So all you have to do is pull yourself back into your body, do some deep breathing, notice the breath, get out of your head, and just kind of ask the question, like, where do I need to put my energy, and see what comes up. And the first answer that comes up kind of out of nowhere is going to be the right answer. But the minute, like when I'm working with a client and I ask them that question, like to deep breathe and ask themselves, and they're like, well, I think it should be this. I know that they're not in their body, they're in their head. You need to get out of your head and listen for that still, quiet place inside of you. The answer bubbles up from there. It's kind of mysterious how it does. Sometimes the answer will make sense to you. Sometimes it doesn't, but that's the real answer. So ask yourself when you're trying to be quiet and noticing your breath, what is it? Where do I need to apply my energy in my own life? You may also, depending on, you may also want to ask a separate question of where do I need to apply my energy culturally? How do I want to create change around me? You could ask that too. It's something it's like we're all being required to do both, to work on ourselves and move our own lives along just as individuals, but also to fit in and help advance all of us. And none of us gets a free pass anymore just to hang out while some people do work on the culture and on fixing things. It's like we're all being asked to do that. But the way you help the world doesn't have to look like the way somebody else helps the world. That's why you have to ask that still, small, quiet, wise voice inside of you for guidance. Your chart will have some clues. I can't really speak to that kind of individual advice here, just looking at this kind of global chart. But that's the kind of thing that's being asked. There's also a lot here about relationships. Relationships It's a very relationship-y chart, and it has to do with all kinds of relationships. Not so much with children, maybe, but it has to do with love relationships and work relationships, maybe relationships with larger institutions around money, maybe relationships with schools, like higher education, loans, accountants, maybe relationships with people at a distance, maybe relationships with people at work, but it's a very relationship-oriented week. And what helps here is what you've learned from yourself, from your past. How have you grown? How have you learned from your past so that you can make better relationship decisions, better relationship oriented? It's just how you converse, how you react to people. How do you react to people in general? How do you react to people outside your family? Your family of origin. How do you judge them? How do you feel judged? How do you react? And start noticing how you want to react, and then try to catch yourself and ask yourself the question, do I have to react that way? It's just a good question for all of us. We're supposed to be doing so much massive self-growth. These are the kinds of questions we want to be asking. Venus is working really well this week with the Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter mashup. So there's so much opportunity like today and through the week, to really turn things around, or to begin to. So just be paying attention to that. Like, if there's a bad situation, there's so much opportunity here to turn things around. But it's based on learning from the past, doing things in an entirely new way, building an entirely new foundation to build on. So we have to first have that insight that's entirely new. So if we're still looking at things the way we looked at things in January, and I'm not just talking about the pandemic, but even political parties, like how you perceive your own political party versus the other, or some group you loathe or despise, you need to see how you can look at things differently. Can you not loathe them? And it's all in how we are perceiving and learning about our perceptions. And it's a very quick, fast happening lesson. It's like we have to learn so quickly on the fly. We're being asked to pick it up. And I think all of us can feel that in some way. Somebody else here, Mercury is 14 cap in the 6th. Okay, so let's say you're having all this happening in the 6th house with Pluto, Jupiter. Well, you're saying Mercury. So is your natal Mercury at 14 Capricorn? I'm not sure, but I am picking up that Capricorn is in the 6th. So with Capricorn in the 6th, just by way of example, let me kind of turn the chart in my head that way. Yeah, so if that's the case, so that would be is that like a Leo rising? Then so much of the message for you has to do with your health and the health of others. Trying to think if there's something else to add in here, because that's so vague, that's so broad. I want to see if we can do a little better there. Thinking, I'm having to turn the chart inside my mind to see if I can picture this. Yeah, so there may be a family member. Yeah, so Leo rising. There may be a family member whose health is in focus this week. So some of you, if you're Leo rising, you may have a family member whose health is in focus. You may also be upgrading your own health. So I don't think you necessarily have a health incident yourself, but I think you may be in the process of upgrading your overall wellness picture. And that includes your well-being, your sense of well-being, which includes your mental, emotional landscape. So be paying attention to that. It's the whole person, not just the whole body, but the whole of what we tend to separate out physical body from our emotions, which isn't exact, but we tend to do that. So when I say well-being and whole body, I mean your mental, emotional landscape as well, and even your spiritual landscape. So I think a lot of rising Leos are working on a massive upgrade in those areas. And so what we're looking for each person is a massive upgrade. It just depends on where any of this hits your chart. But you'll know without me telling you, like Mons Hill, you know probably without me telling you that there's some kind of health well-being upgrade that's needed for you, and you're probably already focused on it. And that's going to be true for all of you, that you'll know what it is that needs the massive upgrade. And there'll be layers to that. It won't just be the sixth house, because the kite formation is fanning out and hitting other parts of the chart. So it's not just health. And we have this wobble of Saturn back and forth over the descendant line for rising Leos, by way of example. And for all of you, you've got Saturn implying two houses. So whatever the next house over from Capricorn is for you, in the case of the rising Leo, it's about their seventh house of love. There's some massive change that's needed there too, some work that needs to be done. So if you're in a relationship, there's some work that needs to be done and a new foundation that needs to be built. If you're not in a relationship, then there's some massive work that needs to be done and a new foundation that needs to be built. So, it's the same message, no matter what your situation is. But you'll know, that's the beauty of it, is each one of you on an individual level, without knowing anything about the astrology, I can validate for you and help you focus maybe. But inside, inside. You know inside yourself what it is. You just have to quiet your mind enough so that you can get that wisdom. So that's the week, guys. And remember, I invite you into the membership lounge. We're going to start talking about 2021 and seeing our way through the last half of this year and on into next year. For me, I love, I'm a moon Capricorn, so I love a big, long view plan. I love to look out 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Anybody who's ever reading with me, that I'm like, well, here's your 3-year window. Here's your 5-year window, because I personally like that. So anyway, we'll do that inside the membership lounge. But I do, even though I'm doing a lot more work in there, I love connecting with all of you here and talking to you here. So anyway, take care, everybody. Have a great week. It's good seeing you here. And I'll see you later.